Good evening. My name is Janelle Ott. I am the instructor of double reeds at Angelo State University. I'm also the bassoon instructor at Abilene Christian, Hardin-Simmons University, and McMurray University. I have been in Texas since 2009, where I came to Texas to get my Doctor of Musical Arts from University of North Texas, and I have been teaching middle school and high school lessons both in the DFW area and in rural areas of East and West Texas ever since I arrived. So I'm here today to talk to you about the lyrical etude for the UIL 2021 to 2022 auditions. This is etude number 20 out of the Mildy Concert Studies. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about things you need to know to prepare this piece well, and then I will play it for you at the end. So, strap in. The first thing that I think is making people nervous when they look at this is that it starts in tenor clef. I have another video that is up about learning how to play in tenor clef. I will put the link for that video in the notes for this video. In the meantime, just like what you need to know. You're going to feel bad at it for a while, and that's okay. That's part of the learning process. Just take it slow, divide the piece into short phrases, make sure your notes are correct, and avoid writing in every single note that's in tenor clef, because when you do that, you're much more likely to make a mistake. Even if you just leave one note in the measure that you didn't write in, it will help. Okay, the next thing that people are noticing about the etude number 20 is that it goes up to a high D flat. If you didn't notice that yet, it's because you don't know how to read tenor clef. The first time we have it is in measure 12. So it's not even like we wait until the end of the etude. It's there a whole bunch of times. And this is the first time I've seen a high school all-region etude go above a high C. So this is a new exciting thing that maybe is a little scary at first. You don't have to be scared. It's going to be fine. So first I'm going to show you my fingering for high D flat, which is very high tech. I wrote it on a piece of paper. There's the fingering. So this quadrant is your left hand thumb, right hand thumb. Left hand fingers, right hand fingers. So left hand, first finger, third finger, resonance key, C key. Right hand, first finger, third finger, F key. That's it. Now, when you first start playing high D flat, because it is new and scary and you're not used to getting it to come out, I would recommend you use the D key instead of your C key. It will come out a lot easier with the D key than it will with the C key. The reason that I don't have the D key down as my regular fingering for high D flat is because it's very, very sharp when you use the D key. So I recommend you use the D key until you feel confident that the note is going to speak. Once it's a little bit less scary for you, start using the C key, or start transitioning to use the C key. It should sound like this. It will take air and maybe a little extra embouchure pressure, but not much. Just a little bit of more effort than what you would need for a high C, and it will come out even. Don't be afraid of it. Just start playing high D flats today, and then it won't be a problem later. So that's the first fingering issue that we have. There also are a few times in this etude where I think it's really important for you to use the front or pinky F sharp G flat fingering. If you think about, most people have learned a fingering for F sharp that is whisper key, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and then the F sharp key is just below the pancake key, right? But that doesn't work if you have to slur to or from a note that uses the B flat key. So for example, if you're going from G flat to B flat, which happens a few times in this piece, you can't slur that. You can't just, because you need this key for F sharp or it's not F sharp. You need this key for B flat or it's not B flat. There's no way to do that really smoothly. So what you do instead is whisper key, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and then the awkward pinky. That's this one right here above the F key. What usually happens is you feel like you have to push it harder than you do. So probably it's going to help you to bring your right elbow out just a little bit. If you're playing the G flat that is at the top of the staff, so this one, what tends to happen is you spend so much time thinking about getting this pinky down that you forget to half hold. So just keep your wits about you. Start using it now, and I would recommend that you write in where you need to use the front G flat, because otherwise there's always a chance you're going to forget. So the places where I've noticed that I need it, I definitely need it at the end of the piece in measure 74, which is very similar to measure number 3, but it's not the same. So measure 73. So you are going to have to slide your pinky from the A flat key to the F sharp key, but you can do that. That will work. What you can't do is, here's how it would sound with using the regular F sharp fingering. There's just going to be that little bit of break in the sound that we don't want to have. Oh, there's another one in measure 68. So this is also the second cut. In that case, we're going from E flat to G flat to B flat. So both the E flat and the B flat, you need the the B flat key down. So G flat has to be the front one. Like so. Let's see if I have any other ones marked. You might be able to get away with not using that fingering for the first half of the piece. I'll tell you if I change my mind. Other than that, at the end, there are a few things to think about. So first of all, starting in measure 77, the eighth notes are actually triplets. They're not marked as triplets, but they're beamed as triplets, and they have to be played as triplets for the piece to make sense. So starting in measure 75. Like so. Then you've got this forte high D, which you have to be careful about how loud it is, because if you really goose it with the air, you're going to go really, really sharp. Then you jump down like 3 octaves and you have to play a pianissimo A flat slurred to a low D flat. This may possibly be a time for you to use your whisper key lock. I almost never use mine because I don't feel like it actually does anything, but psychologically it makes you feel a little bit better about what you have to do, and it gives you a little extra confidence. So what I would do if I was using the whisper key lock, starting in 78, I would put it on after, in that quarter rest before the low A flat, and then if you're going to use the whisper key lock, write a note to yourself after the D flat that you have to take the whisper key lock off, because you will forget. I promise you'll forget. And then you're playing Etude 3 and you don't know why your notes aren't speaking. Well, it's because your whisper key lock is on. If you don't know what a whisper key lock is, you probably didn't have one in middle school. Here is mine. It is this thing right here. So by pushing it up, it engages the whisper key. Let's see if I can get a better angle for you. There you go. It's really easy to bump it by mistake, especially if you don't know it's there. So if you ever notice your high notes just don't want to speak, check your whisper key lock. Okay, other than that, playing those last 2 notes quietly and in tune. They need to be in tune before they are quiet. Get them in tune first. Do whatever it is you have to do. Over time, you will get them to be quieter, but never at the expense of playing them out of tune. Also, I would recommend against using vibrato on those last two notes, or at the very least, get rid of the vibrato by the time you're halfway done with the last note, because vibrato actually makes the note louder. You're making it harder for yourself by keeping the vibrato for that entire ending. Other than that, if you're not good at tenor clef, this is not your year. Divide it up into small sections. Measure 15, you have a double flat. So a double flat just means the note that's on the downbeat of measure 15 is a B double flat. So we know what a B is, and then we bring it down a half step to get B flat. For the double flat, we take it down a half step from B flat. So that is the same note as an A natural. Other things. This is a piece for you to be using your vibrato. Anything longer than an eighth note probably should have vibrato on it, with the exception of that last note. There are two other notes that we really need to talk about. So the first note in the piece, F above the staff, that's a note that really likes to crack. I would recommend that you practice playing it with a good sound and having it be in tune, and slowly start to back off on your dynamic level. If you don't support the F, it will crack on you. So just be aware of that. And in this etude, they want you to play that note quietly and loudly, and they want it to be held out for a long time. They want it to be faster. So really be thinking about your high F. If you're not using your resonance key, you should be. If you are using your whisper key, stop it. Don't make it harder than it needs to be. So first finger, third finger, resonance key, first finger, second finger. Lots of air support. The other thing to think about, if you look at the end of the fourth measure, you've got a descending quarter note, and it goes down by a whole step, A flat to G flat. It's hard to play that in tune. The last note of a phrase tends to be sharp because we're not thinking about it. If it's a descending motive, that tends to be sharp because we hear it sharp. If it's a descending whole step, it tends to be even more sharp. So anytime that you've got a phrase that ends with a descending whole step figure, be very, very careful. I guess another way to say the same thing is, in a lyrical etude especially, you really need to be mindful of your pitch. Your tuner should be on almost all the time when you are practicing this etude, because there's nothing for us to do but sit there and listen to that note and think about whether or not it's in tune. As far as tempo, they gave us the range of 46 to 56 for the tempo. I think with the lyrical etudes, you kind of need to learn them at tempo. It doesn't make sense to make them much slower, because that makes it really difficult to understand the musical line, and you're also going to wear out your embouchure very quickly. If you do it half tempo, you're not going to make it through the etude. So I think it would be a better plan to take smaller chunks and learn them at or near tempo, and then kind of stitch them together. Also, I would prefer that this eventually ends up a lot closer to 56, the higher tempo. I think it sounds better at 56. I think it's easier to play it musically at that tempo. So those are my recommendations. I'm going to play it for you, and I'm going to do it with the metronome on, so you can hear how I'm doing my rhythm. I'm going to take a little bit of liberty with some of my rhythms, but I'm going to make sure that I'm on the beat every single beat. So that's the kind of rubato I would recommend. Your job when you first start learning this etude is to basically do it in tempo, exactly in tempo. Once you're comfortable with playing this exactly in tempo, then you can start to add freedom with your tempo. but not before. If you start trying to add freedom in your tempo at the beginning when you're first learning the piece, it becomes very easy for you to go way too far with it, and you don't even realize how far you've gone off the mark. So always be checking in with your metronome. Once you've got it stable with the metronome, you can start to experiment with slowing down and speeding up if you think it makes musical sense. But always check back in just to make sure you haven't gone too far out of range. All right, so here is Etude number 20 with the cut at quarter note equals 56. Thank you.